1344 years have passed since Karbala tragedy happened. It happened on 10th October 680 AD or 10 Muharram 80 after Hijri. And a big sacrifice, one of the important annals in Islamic history. There are many angles if you look into Karbala tragedy, but where it serves paradigm of sacrifice, piety, courage, and struggle against aggression, there it serves many political lessons. So being a political scientist, I wrote one article many years ago, and I did research when I was scholar on Pakistan chair in Istanbul. Good salary, not much work to do. So I work on it. It took almost 2-3 years without touching religion or sensitivities of religion associated with Karbala tragedy. I highlighted political lessons of Karbala. And there are many political lessons and have been mentioned in many books, like Edward Gibbon. If you read his book, The Fall and Decline of the Roman Empire, the 50th chapter, you see the way he has sketched Karbala incident and the way 72 sacrificed their life. Quote unquote, he says, I remember, he writes about Hazrat Hussain, that tired, weary and wounded, he set himself in front of the tent, and as he tried to drink water, he was pieced in his throat, and two beautiful youth, his son and nephew, died in his arms. He raised the hands to heavens and prayed for living and dead. So there are many lessons, political lessons. The first is that leadership matters. Whatever the case may be, Hazrat Muawiyah had leadership qualities, and he ruled for 19 years with iron hand. And though he stood challenges, but he ruled. Yazid didn't have qualities like his dad, and even he didn't listen to the advices of his dad, like Hazrat Hussain and 4 other, Rahman bin Abu Bakr, Zubair bin Abdullah, Abdullah bin Umar, and one other which in fact I have forgotten now. They had not paid allegiance, they had not taken bath of under Muawiyah, and Muawiyah didn't touch upon that. His shrewdness knew that better not to touch upon force. And it's sad that he had told Yazid that don't force him. So, in nutshell, leadership matters in politics. When we talk about governance or whatever, leadership matters. So historians who have written, they say that Yazid didn't have that. One. Second, power corrupts absolutely. Yazid, it's sad, that had softer qualities, and he led the expedition which was sent to conquer Constantine Istanbul, in which Hazrat Ayub Ansari participated. There were 2-3 expeditions sent there. Hazrat Hussain led one. Edward Gibbon has mentioned his quality and his courage. He says when the slaves were brought, but he was in the lower, like Anatolia side, Hazrat Hussain. Edward Gibbon says that he sheerly showed qualities of his maternal grandpapa. When the slaves were brought, as routine was, he gave them the same food his soldiers took, he took. Anyhow, power corrupts. When he stepped into power, Yazid, he proved to be a very power lusty and very power stingy, to grab all power. And one of the factors that he, the biggest blunder he made, that forced Hazrat Hussain for allegiance back. So power corrupts. That's the second lesson. And that's why, why democracy is a good system. Because under democratic setup, powers are shared. They don't lie. Power doesn't lie in one hand or fewer hands. They are shared through cabinet, through parliament, through standing committees. Why standing committees are important? Have you ever thought about that? Because powers are channelized. Powers are shared between opposition and those in power. And the fourth is that consultation in politics very important. And in case of Karbala, Hazrat Hussain was told by many circles, including forgetting an old Sahaba and Zubair bin Abdullah, that don't go to Kufa. Don't go to Kufa. Not advisable. And he sent his cousin Muslim bin Aqil, who was killed by Yazid. And then in the wake of when he decided to go, he had got around 12,000 letters. And it was one of the leading factors, as Dr. Israr Ahmed mentioned in a couple of his lectures on Karbala, that one of the major factors accountable for burning tents, setting them afire, was to destroy, burn those letters. But anyhow, consultation in politics very important. And that's why they say democracy is a good system, because consultation chances are there, discussion, this, that. So they say that Hazrat Hussain was, no, maybe things were written divine many angles, but whatever research I have made, political lessons, one is consultation. He was told by different circles, don't go there. And next to that, another lesson which one can extract from the tragedy, renegation and hypocrisy in politics undermines the system, undermines governance, and disturbs the equilibrium. Renegation, a renegade, which in our vocabulary we say lota, and hypocrisy. In Karbala, one of the factors accountable for tragedy was that the people of Kufa, whom Hazrat Hussain was going to visit as invited, turned their faces aside, and under the repression, Yazid and Ibn Ziyad, whatever, they turned aside and they showed hypocrisy and renegation. Had they not shown that, the tragedy might not have taken place, but it happened. So many historians who have written on Karbala, they say that they showed renegation and hypocrisy. Another lessons which I extracted, that under power politics and under lust of power, the action of establishment becomes more repressive, and action, one direction is redirected and it becomes more repressive. No direction was taken, order that to deal with Hazrat Hussain was taken in Damascus, which had been made the capital of Muawiyah rule, Hazrat Muawiyah rule. Direction was taken there, and in Kufa it was redirected. So it became more repressive. Many historians say that it was Ibn Ziyad who showed more repression under the direction actually taken. You know, in those days communication were very, very slow, and it would take weeks for one message to pass on. So it was taken, as one writer I have forgotten, but they say that it was like many directions, it was also a direction. He writes in Urdu, quote unquote, कि जिसकी रूह से दर्रे फरात के पानी को कुत्ते सूअर खंजीर पी सकते थे, लेकिन रसूल की औलाद नहीं पी सकती थी, because it was an order of establishment. And also a similar lesson is that establishment makes its own rules, directed, redirected, and some rules are very repressive. And you see mostly under dictatorship, military rules, where you see such direction and such orders, directed, redirected. Under democracy, repressive orders are very, very few. And the last is that gender plays a role. The role in the wake of tragedy, when all male martyred, and Hussein, his men, except one or two, ladies played a role of courage, patience, particularly Hazrat Bibi Zainab. So one of the lessons are gender play role of gender in crisis, and in mismanagement. Very important. They can put things on track. Gender appreciated, gender role very important in crisis. Tragedy of Karbala happened, as I mentioned, 1344 years have passed, but whenever Muharram comes, new Islamic year begins more or less with tragedy of Karbala. Whenever we look back, it was a very sad chapter of Islamic history. But if we talk about political lessons, there are many. So Allah bless all. Allah bless all. One of many verses, many marsiya, so much has written. But I personally like one verse by Muhammad Ali Joker. कत्ले हुसैन असल में मर्गे यजीद है, इस्लाम जिंदा होता है हर करबला के बाद. And Ali Shariati has in his writing, he was a sociologist, PhD from France. I read him in detail. He beautifully talks about Karbala paradigm and its role modeling against aggression and repression. Thank you.